The cold night air was still, but his heart raced like thunder. The main character stood alone in the dimly lit street, clutching his chest. His breath was uneven, his mind foggy. But one thing was clear. This night would change everything. Out of nowhere, a shadow appeared, moving gracefully yet silently toward him. He froze. His instinct screamed danger, but he couldn't look away. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a presence both haunting and beautiful. She looked at him, her gaze piercing through him like she could see into his soul. "What are you out here?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying an edge of curiosity. He didn't know how to answer. Something about her made him feel small, yet he couldn't ignore the strange pull she had on him. Then it happened. She stepped closer, and the world around him felt like it had slowed. The shadows around her seemed alive, twisting and reaching, as if drawn to her power. His chest tightened. Was this fear or something else? Just as he was about to back away, she smiled. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't threatening either. "You're different," she said, her tone more intrigued than accusatory. Different? What did she mean? He didn't have time to ask before she extended her hand toward him. For a moment, he hesitated, but something deep inside urged him to take it. Her touch was cold, almost unnaturally so, and yet, the moment their hands met, he felt something awaken within him. It was like a spark, a connection he couldn't explain. The days that followed were anything but normal. She began appearing more often, sometimes at the strangest moments. Whether he was walking to class or sitting alone, she was always there, watching, observing. "Why are you following me?" he finally asked one day, his frustration bubbling over. Her response was simple, yet it sent chills down his spine. "Because you're mine now." His life spiraled into chaos after that. She wasn't just mysterious, she was powerful. She moved through the world like its rules didn't apply to her, and somehow he was now tied to her. But why? One night, she led him to an abandoned building. "There's something you need to see," she said, her tone serious. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The room was dark, lit only by a faint, eerie glow. In the center stood a figure, a man, lifeless, with marks on his neck. What happened here?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at him even harder than before. "This is the truth of my world," she said. "And now it's your world too." His stomach turned. He wanted to run, to escape whatever this was, but he couldn't. Her presence held him in place, like an invisible chain he couldn't break. His stomach turned. He wanted to run, to escape whatever this was, but he couldn't. Her presence held him in place, like an invisible chain he couldn't break. "Why me?" he asked. Her stomach turned. He felt the slide slowly up. "What would you do if someone told you that your life would never be the same? Would you embrace it or fight it?" The more time he spent with her, the more he began to understand her world. It was dangerous, dark, and nothing like the life he had known, but it was also captivating in a way he couldn't explain. There were moments when he saw glimpses of who she truly was. Beneath her cold exterior, there was a sadness she tried to hide. She carried a burden, one that he couldn't yet comprehend. One evening, as they sat on a rooftop overlooking the city, he asked her the question that had been haunting him. "Do you regret it?" She didn't look at him. Instead, she stared out at the horizon, her expression unreadable. "Regret doesn't change anything," she said softly. Her words stuck with him. They were a reminder that the choices they made, whether good or bad, were part of who they were. But just as he started to feel like he understood her, everything changed. A new danger emerged, one that even she seemed unprepared for. They were ambushed one night, shadows closing in from all sides. "Stay close to me," she ordered, her voice sharp. He didn't have time to argue. The air was thick with tension as they fought their way out. She moved like a storm, her strength and speed unmatched. But he wasn't just a bystander anymore. For the first time, he felt that same spark from their first encounter. Together, they fought side by side, their connection growing stronger with every moment. By the end, they were battered and bruised, but alive. As they caught their breath, she looked at him with a new sense of respect. "Maybe you're not as weak as I thought," she said with a faint smile. He didn't respond, but inside he felt a sense of pride. For the first time, he felt like he belonged in her world. Their journey was far from over, but one thing was clear. He wasn't the same person he had been before. She had changed him, just as he had begun to change her. What secrets still lay hidden in her heart, and how far would he be willing to go to uncover them? If you want to see where their story goes next, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You won't want to miss what happens next.